Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on what are the best junglers for ganking in solo queue. Ganking is a really solid way to give your team advantages when playing a league, and generally speaking, the team whose jungler gets off the more successful ganks will be the team that wins the game, so it is pretty important. First thing to say is that I've done a video with some tips on how to improve your ganking, which I shall link to down below. Also, feel free to let me know what you thought about this video by giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and as always, leaving your feedback and suggestions for future videos down below in that comment section. This is a video being made in partnership with Pro Guides, who by the way have released quite a nifty new service called Genius. What they've done is they've banded together a bunch of high elo players to be at your disposal. So if you ever have a question you want to ask a high elo player, you can do that 24 hours a day. Not bad, eh? So, cracking on with the video, the first amazing ganker is Elise. The Spider Queen has been one of the better solo queue junglers ever since her release ages ago. The primary reason for this is her ability to have intense amounts of pressure in the very early game. Not only is she very good in 1v1 situations, but as is relevant to this video, has some top quality ganks to boot. She has a gap closer, a lights out hard CC, and pretty high damage, both burst and sustained. Similarly, unlike some other junglers, Elise provides sick ganks from as soon as she unlocks her 3 abilities. She doesn't need to level her skills like Zac with his jump, and doesn't rely on an ultimate as is the case with people like Nocturne or Fiddlesticks. When you are ganking on Elise, try to first repel close to your target, and if you've got it, apply your red buff with your human form ranged auto attack. Only fire your cocoon when you're sure you're gonna land it, which means getting as close as possible to the target or when they're already slowed or stunned. The next great ganker is Elise. Now, if you're looking for a solid playmaking champion, then you need look no further than the Blind Monk. He has multiple gap closers with his Q and his W, and although his slow is not the most potent form of crowd control, it is extremely reliable and easy to apply. His damage early game is pretty solid, maybe not the highest, but certainly nothing to be sniffed at. And whereas his ganks are solid from early on, he unlocks an extreme new tier at level 6 with his Dragon's Rage, essentially evolving from Chuck Norris to John Cena. Lee's kick is what enables his extreme playmaking. Displacing, crowd controlling and dealing huge amount of damage to targets is very coveted for a ganker. And quite possibly the sexiest thing about all this, outside of that chiseled 12 pack he's got rocking, is that his ult has a relatively low cooldown considering how awesome it is. Generally speaking, the particularly awesome abilities in League tend to have quite a high cooldown, which is why I would imagine if you were an ability, you would have quite a high cooldown as well. When you are ganking on Elise, don't lead with your Q. Instead, jump in close with your W towards the enemy, either onto a ward you've placed, a nearby minion, or your already fighting ally, and then apply your E-slow. This will make it much easier to hit your Q, as you'll not only be closer, but they'll also be slowed as well. Now next up we have Jarvan. Now this may seem a little bit surprising to see on a list, seeing as he's barely played anymore, but Jarvan's ganks always have been and always will be pretty bloody scary. One of the unique things about Jarmander is how potent he can be with his level 2 ganks. Unlike most junglers, he can get the job done without needing that third ability. In addition, the 2 abilities he mostly uses for ganks, his Q and his E, have a sort of combo effect. When those abilities are used together, they serve as not only his damage, but also his gap closer and his CC. At level 6, Jarvan's ganks become pretty hard to escape unless you have your flash or a low cooldown gap closer. Unfortunately for Jarvan, a lot of new champions do tend to have this, but it's still pretty powerful. An EQ ult combo can shut someone down from miles away, meaning the enemy barely has any time to react, let alone the fact that this can be done from over a wall as well. Our penultimate jungle choice here is gonna be Kindred. Now on paper this choice may seem a tiny bit surprising, as Kindred doesn't actually really have any solid CC and at level 6 doesn't get a boost to her ganking at all. Still, her damage is utterly bonkers, and the fact that she can hop endlessly to chase you down just adds to her absurdity at ganking. An underrated point of Kindred's ganking as well is that there is essentially no other jungler that can fight her in the early game, meaning you're not vulnerable in any choice you make. You can choose whatever pathing you want, you can gank whatever lane you want and face very minimal risk. On top of that, Kindred is a champion who tends to only build damage, meaning the damage on her ganks doesn't fall off as the game goes on in the same way that it does for some other junglers who might be opting to build somewhat tanky for when that mid game rolls around. And speaking of rolling around, our final champion is a rather okay choice, Rammus. Now despite his motto, Rammus is far from just okay at ganking. He rolls in at 3,000 miles an hour with nothing in mind but wrecking your lane and stealing your bitch. Rammus can come in from the lane, from the river, or due to his natural tankiness, even under your own tower. It's really hard to be safe against a Rammus jungle, as oftentimes even when you see him coming, he's coming at such a speed that you can't actually do anything to get out of his way. His taunt is one of the tougher CCs to play around, and is actually worse than a stun in many aspects. Not only can you not control your character, but you hurt yourself by hitting Rammus, and you move away from safety. It's crazy. These ganks are also very simple yet very effective. The only downside is that he tends to be very binary in his approach. There's no creativity involved and therefore pretty easy to predict. Though to be honest, even if you can predict it, sometimes it's just way too hard to play against even if you're just slightly out of position. Now those are my top 5 choices, but are far from the only good gankers. There are some really good runners up like Nidalee, Gragas and Rek'Sai. There are some champions who are great gankers but rely too much on only one ability, such as Zac. Or there are those who are top tier with their ultimates but nothing special without it, like Fiddlesticks, Nocturne and Rengar. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this list. Do you agree with my choices, or would you stick someone else in your top 5? Let me know down below in the comments. I just want to give a shout out here to Pro Guys for helping me make this video. You guys probably think I'm just selling out every time I mention their name, but legitimately they help me edit these videos, so it actually really does help me out. And also they're a quality service, so it's a win for me and it's a win for you. But as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to me over here on YouTube for more educational league content. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All of those links are down below in the description, guys. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.